Moving on to the last panel discussion session of the day, institutional imperfections impacting the growth of SMEs in the African continent will be moderated by Mr. Tunde Fafunwa, who is the lead advisor, Digital Center, UNECA, and managing partner of Kidsco Incorporation. Mr. Tunde's mission is to create globally inclusive platforms that improves lives and build community. He is responsible for generating and co-leading continental initiatives and partnerships for digital transformation across SMEs and the informal sector. As a senior partner at Kidsco, Mr. Tunde has built and managed growth, customer satisfaction, and innovation in business, in technology and telecommunication businesses in Africa, Southeast Asia, and the US. Mr. Tunde has collaborated with the WEF, OECD, and the Mo Ibrahim Foundation on digital transformation and inclusion. He has an MBA and master's from MIT, that's the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. Mr. Tunde, please take over. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Cynthia. And a good afternoon, good evening, good day, wherever you may be joining us today. And thank you for staying with the conference to this last session. A warm welcome to this session on institutional imperfections impacting the growth of SMEs on the African continent as part of this conference on innovation and sustainability as the drivers of economic growth. My name again is Tunde Fafunwa, and I will be your moderator today. So we know the informal sector makes up almost 70 to 80% of most economies on the continent, and that even within the informal sector, micro, small, and even medium-sized businesses make up the bulk of the informal sector. SMEs, of course, also make up the majority of technology startups, innovators, entrepreneurs, and growth companies within the formal sector of the economy. With more than 2 decades of government and banking and financial industry and other public and private sector actors developing programs and implementing policies, the growth of SMEs still remains a challenge, particularly when we look across the both formal and informal sector. There's an absence of political consistency. At times, there's a lack of trust in institutions. They're changing regulations. And of course, we have the explosion of technology, including mobile phones and the internet. Digital skills are a key challenge. And of course, all of this is further compounded by COVID. So today, it's my pleasure to introduce a very seasoned panel that will help us dig into these issues and come up with ideas and insights and examples of successes and how some of the challenges have been met. Today, we have Mr. Mtho Xulu, the president of the South Africa Chamber of Commerce and Industry, SACI, and the director of Small Enterprise Development Agency, SEDA, in South Africa. He's the founding CEO of JSX Investments, with interests in property, transportation, manufacturing, financial services, ICT, infrastructure, mining, and energy. You're most welcome, Mr. Mtho. We also have Blen Abebe, Africa Investment Advisor, Horn of Africa, United States Development Finance Corporation. Ms. Abebe manages investments in the United States and frontier markets with a particular focus on East Africa and Ethiopia. Prior to joining Cross Boundary, she worked for McKinsey & Co. and has advised public clients on investment strategies and transformation of government projects. Blen, you're most welcome. Also today on our distinguished panel is Shadi Banna. He's the founder and chief empowerment officer of Potential.com, an innovative edtech social enterprise that empowers millions globally through the software as a service platform that they run. Prior to founding Potential, Shadi held leadership roles and positions with global technology companies, including Mtho, HP, and NCR. Welcome. And last but not least, we have Mr. Daniel Lam. He's the Regional Director, Middle East and Africa, Hong Kong Trade Development Council. Mr. Lam is responsible for the supervision and implementation of the Council's promotional activities linking Hong Kong and the region and developing business networks in local business communities. Now, with 45 minutes to get into these issues, we're going to jump in. And I'm going to start with you, Mr. Mtho. SMEs face many daunting challenges. As president of the South Africa Chamber of Commerce and Industry, what are the most critical challenges that SMEs face? And why is it so important that we address and solve these challenges?
Thank you very much, Tunde, and thank you for having me. Greetings to my fellow panelists. I think what I would like to do is to link up my response to that, to the title of this session, the institutional imperfections. And as the South African Chamber of Commerce and Industry, we represent over 20,000 businesses, largely SMEs, who are to fund opportunities throughout all the sectors in the South African economy. And how I can cover the challenges is firstly the fact that we, as an ecosystem, have not fully appreciated the fact that the SMEs community consists of different SMEs who are at different stages of their life cycles. And unfortunately, some of the interventions that we've seen have missed the point because we tend to treat certain sections of SMEs or think that we have one solution for all SMEs. So what we have found as the Chamber of Commerce is that institutionally, we have not been able to properly differentiate the different skill set and stages of development of SMEs. And hence the interventions obviously are not adequate. And in that regard, we believe that we need to have somewhat compartmentalized responses to how we define SMEs and how then we support them at their different life cycles. Coupled with that, we've also found that we have not mastered the link between the priority sectors and the national development goals to the intervention of SMEs. So we'll speak about SMEs being the engines of growth and the drivers of growth. However, they're not properly linked to the priority sectors of a particular nation. So you have them existing not necessarily in a concerted effort to take advantage of available opportunities, but you have SMEs that are formed and then hope to succeed. So I think as countries, we need to be able to link priority sectors to the SMEs that we have defined so that we link opportunities to the energy that comes out of SMEs. And lastly, we believe that the support or the ongoing support needs to be properly tailored with the sufficient resources to deepen the skill set of SMEs and to develop their competitive advantage to better serve domestic and international markets. What we found sometimes is that even though there is political will to support SMEs, the resources that are made available are not sufficient and are not properly coordinated. So even if you have various institutes of SME development or departments and the likes, they are sometimes less resourced compared to their other national departments. So the old departments of all government setups tend to have more resources compared to the new departments that are focusing on SME development. So those are some of the challenges that we find in the ecosystem, and hence we are not able to really develop the SME community at the level that can eventually compete with the established corporate entities in our economy.
Thank you, Mr. Mtho. Let me pick up on a couple of these key points that Mr. Mtho Xulu has very nicely highlighted for us in terms of the challenges of getting resources to SMEs, linking that to the broader sector and economy, as well as the skills. So Shadi, I'm going to turn to you, and as the founder of Potential.com, the social enterprise addressing some of these critical challenges with over 1 million SMEs, and particularly given now the additional challenge of COVID. How are the programs and services that you are providing addressing some of these challenges that SMEs have?
Thank you, Tunde, and thanks everyone for joining. So as you mentioned, Potential has been working with the SME population, supporting SMEs all over the world for many years, actually since 2005. And most of our programs have been developed with governments or brands as part of their CSR efforts to support the ecosystems around them, the communities around them, using our empowerment platform. And over the years, of course, we've developed the platform further and further, but we've always realized there's a speed limit, let's say, when we're working with large institutions like governments or multilateral organizations because of the structure, the approval process. So in particular, when COVID hit, we found that the SMEs all over the world, as we all know, have been really affected really badly through COVID. And the biggest aspect that they were affected with has been the digitization aspect. For businesses that weren't really digitally enabled, they struggled a lot, struggled from sales and marketing, and struggled from an operations perspective. Hopefully, a lot of them have survived, but a lot of them, even those that did survive, still struggle with this digitization approach. So we, given that we need to move quickly, we launched 3 months back a big initiative called the SME Empowerment Program. It's a free global initiative. We launched it in partnership with Amazon Web Services, Cisco, Schneider Electric, and a few other multinational organizations around the world to support small and medium businesses in their digitization efforts. And I'd like to share with you some insights from a survey, or not actually a survey, but as the SMEs interact with the platform, we basically get a lot of insights. So we ran a report today for the conference, just so that I share with you some fresh data from about 2,000 African small and medium businesses that were part of the program. To give you some insight of the challenges that they're telling us they're facing and what can we all do to sort of support them. So out of these 2,000 SMEs, 70% of them have trade licenses and 30% don't. So we would assume that the 30% that don't are either startups that haven't registered yet or are part of the informal sector, as you've mentioned. So they're running their business, but they haven't registered. Most of these businesses are in the services industry, followed by trading and manufacturing as subsectors. And the very interesting part is 47% of them are women-led businesses, which is also very interesting for us to know and to support. Now, this is where the insight. So the overwhelming majority of these businesses, 95% to be specific, stated that they were looking for funding or financing, that they need that to continue growing. And we know this around the world. There have been many government programs to support businesses during this period. I believe in Africa, it hasn't been as prevalent. I mean, the governments haven't been able to really support the local business. So this is why you see this big need for funding and investment. Despite the fact that 75% of these businesses generate leads on their websites, which is also a nice way to, again, see how the businesses have evolved, 92% of the overall businesses claim that they need help with digitization. So that's, again, shows us the big needs in this area. So as an example of one area of digitization, 79% would benefit and would like to get more of a cloud-based accounting software, as an example. But you also see large numbers of that kind of level when it comes to digital marketing, going onto the cloud, putting their infrastructure, etc. So what we've done in our program, just so that we go back to how we're addressing some of these challenges, which we knew, but I just wanted to give you the fresh data from the African SMEs perspective. The platform is a free platform. Any small and medium business from anywhere can join. We have, as we said, many joining from Africa at the moment, and we'd love to extend it to more countries and entities. What that happens is once the SMEs register, they get access to knowledge. So they watch micro-learning content, videos, and courses that guide them through the digitization plans. How would they go about with their digitization plans? And as they go through that content and they learn what they need to do, they also indirectly work on building their action plan of how will they take action on what they've learned. And that's a very important part of what we do as Potential.com when it comes to the empowerment piece. So it's not just about giving the capacity building piece, giving them the knowledge, but we want them to be able to translate that knowledge into an action plan that they can implement. We don't stop there. We also link them with experts. So as they go through the content, they collect points. So it's a way where we excite them to engage more and more. And with these points, they can redeem them for mentorship sessions or expert sessions that they could also have for free with experts that are volunteering part of their time to the program. And then beyond that, if they want to take it forward with an expert, they can then agree together and do it. Also, on top of that, what we've done with our multinational organization is we put together some curated offers on in this case, we're focusing in this period on digitization. So a lot of digitization offers that are relevant for the small and medium businesses. So in this way, we're giving an end-to-end solution to the businesses mapped to their own needs. And we're really seeing great feedback. I mean, there's a lot of great feedback that we're getting from all of the businesses. But what we need to do to move this forward is to localize it. So that's where it really starts to make sense. So today we've launched an international program. It has international content, resources, etc. Next step is on a country level, we localize it so that expertise is coming from within the country. The offers are coming from within the country. So that's how we could really support the businesses and these challenges. And we look forward to work with many of you to do that.
Great, Shadi. Thanks for that and for the various insights and numbers always tell a great story. Blen, I'd like to bring you in here now. The United States Development Finance Corporation became operational recently with an increased investment cap and mandate for direct equity and support for investment funds. We've heard a little bit about how finance and financing is key to SMEs, and we know key to private sector and business growth. How does the work that you're doing support the approach of financing and investment of SMEs in Africa?
Thank you, Tunde. Great question. So just to give a high-level understanding of the DFC, it's actually a very old agency under our old name, OPEC. But we have been, we were not that active on the African continent, particularly around SMEs as well, for a couple of reasons. One of the main obstacles when we are OPEC was we've always looked into an American nexus. So we were looking at investments that has some sort of connection with the US. And we are also not able to support equity products. So essentially we're looking at large infra projects that has a specific US nexus. So by default, that kind of excluded most of the SMEs that were able to partake across the continent. So from OPEC, fast forward to DFC, there was a bit of a revision that was made in January of last year in 2020. And one of the revision, actually two of the revisions that are making us pretty hands-on around the SMEs is that this US nexus requirement is removed. We still have a preference, but it's not a requirement. And we also started issuing equity product as opposed to our debt financing. So with the two addition essentially being added to the new DFC, we are now actively looking at supporting SMEs. So we have about 5 priority sectors as DFC that we're looking at across investments across the continent. And SMEs actually are pretty significant components. So we have healthcare, agriculture, education, infrastructure, but then we have a bucket that we're solely focusing on SMEs. And this has given us a pretty significant leverage post becoming DFC. We understand something like 98 or 96% of SMEs, 96 to 98% of SMEs across Africa, SMEs are that percentage is within that percentage ratio. So, and we also understand that they're heavily reliant on bank loans with limited access to finance. So having the opening, issuing equity, and also being flexible on our US nexus requirement, we're able to really offer our products across the continent. As of the last quarter, we do have active commitment of about $8 billion in Africa alone, and most of those rely on SMEs. So it's more to say that SMEs are our focus, and we have this flexible product offering, be it debt, equity, technical assistance, and an insurance package that we are offering for SMEs across the continent. Thank you.
Great, Blen. Good to hear the update and expansion of OPIC and the focus on the additional financing instruments and on SMEs is certainly very, very welcome. Mr. Lam, Daniel, very much want to get you in on the conversation. As we've heard, SMEs make up a diverse group. They're in need of financing, they're in need of linkage to the broader sectors. But we also know that the platforms and programs that run on a sustainable basis and that give governments and institutions an ability to design and implement platforms at scale is so important. And we've seen some of that from the Belt and Road Initiative, and would be very interested to hear about the Hong Kong Trade Development Council's approach, how you've supported SMEs in your region, the linkages to the African continent, and what can be benefited from that. Daniel, please.
Thank you, Mr. Tunde. Well, this is a very big initiative that is initiated by the Chinese government. But in fact, I think the Belt Road initiative is really can help the development of the SMEs in Africa, especially in the area of infrastructure development, transportation network, logistics sectors, manufacturing capacity, which can help the development of a favorable business environment for the SMEs in Africa. Well, the Belt Road Initiative is a global development strategy involving infrastructure development and investment in over 150 countries and international organizations in a bid to enhance the regional connectivity and also embrace the international cooperation. So basically, there are 5 aspects that maybe we can share. First is the policy coordination. So the countries along the Belt Road will, via consultation, on an equal footing, jointly formulated development plans and measures for advancing cross-national and regional cooperation and resolving problems arising from cooperation through consultation. Second, the facilities connectivity. Efforts will be made to advance the construction of port infrastructure facilities or creating the land-water intermodal transport passages, aiming to establish an infrastructure network connecting maybe Asian sub-regions with other parts of Asia, Europe, and Africa. And also, the third one is to facilitate unimpeded trade. And steps will be taken to resolve investment and trade facilitation issues, reduce investment and trade barriers, and promote regional economic integration. Fourth one, the financial integration. And action will be taken to deepen multilateral and bilateral financial cooperation and enhance the ability of managing financial risk through regional arrangement. Last but not least, the people-to-people bonds. Efforts will be made to promote exchange and dialogue between different cultures to form the basis for the advancement of regional cooperation. Well, the Belt Road Initiative offers global business to explore the tremendous potential of countries along the Belt Road. In Africa, there's a great demand in improving the infrastructure, which is crucial in developing local SMEs business activities, particularly transportation network, port development, logistics services, and manufacturing capacities. With all this important and basic infrastructure in place, SMEs can operate and conduct their business in a much higher efficiency and will be more vibrant with better connection with overseas markets. What follows will be increased trade and exchange and plenty of opportunities of both developed, emerging, and developing markets for our SMEs in Africa. Talking about the role of Hong Kong, well, in fact, the role of Hong Kong is to facilitate the Belt Road Initiative, which is very important, since Hong Kong is well placed to provide all relevant supporting services to facilitate the Belt Road Initiative, making it ideal platform for overseas companies to access the Belt Road opportunities. For example, Hong Kong service companies can help companies in the Belt Road region to work on different projects like financing, mitigating risk, in joint partnership with investors for projects, logistics supports in facilitating trade, helping promoting African SMEs export or sourcing with Asian trade partners. So I'm confident that this important initiative will benefit the SMEs in Asia, especially those trading and export sectors. Over to you, Mr. Tunde.
Thank you, Daniel. That's very, very insightful on some of the overall programs and initiatives, and we'll hopefully have a little time to dig a little further. We do have some questions from the audience, which I'm going to factor in here. One of them is, the question says, why does every financier consider farming and agriculture as high risk? And how do we tackle this issue, particularly in light of COVID? And this is something that we also have seen from the Economic Commission for Africa, where there's sort of a premium put on Africa, higher interest rates and risk premiums, when a lot of the data shows actually better returns and in many cases lower risk for some of the bigger infrastructure activities. So Blen, I'm going to shoot this question at you first. How do you see this issue of the perception of high risk? Do you agree that that is so? And if so, how do you think that should be addressed?
Sure. Thank you, Tunde, for that. So we actually don't see that as a risky environment. We actually have a new unit, particularly post-COVID, as the question relates. We have a unit called Food Security Unit, and we are mainly focusing agriculture, not usually on primary agriculture, but with the processing aspect of it. So we do work with a significant number of small SME cooperatives that are going into processing. Recently, we just did an investment into a cashew processor in Sub-Saharan Africa, for example. So, so we are very keen in supporting this sector, and I think the risky perspective comes in a form of when you look at it as a lending mechanism. There's not much of a collateral that you could take when you look at these deals. But DFC does lending without collaterals on some cases, and particularly our deals are reviewed on case-by-case basis. And we do have, as I said, a group that mainly focuses on agriculture. So we don't normally see it as a sector that's quite risky, and we're actually focusing post-COVID to really focus on the sector from our agency.
Thanks, Blen. There's also an interesting question thanking the panel for its insights, but saying that this particular audience member is concerned that these interventions appear high level and to established entities. And the question is, many SMEs are still struggling to break even, not to talk of adopting technology and the cloud and digitalization, and that smaller entities are those that will impact growth when they receive the necessary funding and then can scale. So how do we reach these low-level entities and encourage growth? And Mtho, I'm going to throw that question to you to start, and how you've seen that addressed in South Africa. Is that a challenge? And what do you think is the right way to address it?
Thank you very much for the question. And I think the audience member is spot on, and it's a lived experience in South Africa that certain SMEs and our categorization does limit our intervention where the intervention is most needed. As I mentioned earlier, is that we tend to lump all SMEs into the same basket, or have interventions that are geared to certain SMEs and not others. And what we have found is that what is actually needed is that we need to be very clear about which SMEs we are intervening at what stage of the life cycle. And we've found that non-financial support has gone a very long way in South Africa in establishing the smaller SMEs, because most of them still have to get the fundamentals right. So it's not so much so that they need finances, they just still need to get the concept of business correct so that they can link those interests in business to the proper markets and to setting up with the right people in the right locations. So those are just some of the fundamentals that we found. And in South Africa, entities have been established to focus primarily on non-financial support to help out all those SMEs who may be on the lower side of the development scale. What we've also advocated for as the Chamber of Commerce is that we need to have a greater cooperation on SME interventions. Because yes, what happened, the reason why you find that the bigger concept of digitalization and cloud computing tend to get more favor is because most of the work is outsourced to consultants who go into communities without fully understanding the reality of the SMEs in the area. And what we have been advocating for is that we need to have localized intervention based on the unique circumstances of SMEs in that area, so that even corporates are pushing a development from their CSI budget or enterprise development budgets. It must be designed in such a way that it understands the context in which the corporate operates in. And we do not have an enterprise development consultant that goes throughout the nation with the same plan for different SMEs. So the intervention that we found is that you need to separate the type of interventions. What we've done in South Africa is between financial and non-financial, but also you need independent and objective development players in various localities that are able to tailor make solutions unique to the circumstances of SMEs in a particular economic node. Thank you, Tunde.
May I also add to that?
Of course, Shadi, I was going to bring you in. I know you have to respond to that. We want
yes.
your view of, is digitalization blanket? Is it an issue of different approaches for different markets, or is some not needed? Please go ahead.
Yes, so again, we work with entrepreneurs around the world, and many entrepreneurs claim or request access to funding first. And I always tell them, no, why would you request access to funding first? And when we talk about going to the cloud or doing online activities, you could do this for free. You don't even need funding. Today, you can start your business on Instagram without paying anything to anyone and just start creating a followership, selling your products on Instagram. And a lot of entrepreneurs start that way. If you want to start an e-commerce store, you could start it for $30 a month, which might be a little bit of an might require some microfinancing, but it's also not a big. So in the past, when we talk about moving to the cloud or doing things on the cloud, it used to entail lots of investments, big opportunities, but that is much easier now. Anyone can start expanding their business digitally, and it's a need to expand their business digitally. And I've seen many programs, grant programs or programs where entrepreneurs are given funding that gets wasted because the entrepreneurs are not really ready to make use of that funding. So what we're trying to do in our kind of empowerment approach is it needs to be a two-way thing. The entrepreneurs need to put the effort to put together their plans, to understand what they need to do and put their effort from there. The role of the community around them, government, entities like us, corporates, as Mtho was saying, that are providing corporate social responsibilities, the rest of the community is there to map that pathway, to make it easier for the entrepreneurs to know that if they put the effort and they move from one stage to the next, there will be someone next to them. So as an example, going back to the example I started off, if someone starts by selling their products on Instagram for, without any costs basically involved in setting up their infrastructure, and they have a customer base, then they can go to many different entities, whether early stage VCs, whether incubators, etc., and show them that I have already a customer base. I am already selling. I need this small amount of money to actually take my business to the next level. And there will be many institutions that would love to support such entrepreneurs. So I just wanted to point that out, that it's a two-way thing. The entrepreneurs cannot wait for just the support to come to them, especially these days, because everything is open. The whole world is open to them, and it can, anyone can start at a very, very low price point in participating in the global economy.
Okay, thanks for
Mr.
that.
Tunde, I want to chip in some thought about the technology.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think while for the application of technology by SMEs, especially I think in Africa, I think basically maybe we look at some basic need or basic requirement first, like how to raise the awareness of the benefits by using and deploying technology, how to bring technology to their business. And also secondly, I think is how to increase the supply of technology sector's personnel. I think, which I think is key elements to drive the technology or the competitiveness of SMEs. And also, I think while for the government in Africa, I think they should really need to look at how to provide some financial support to encourage the deployment of technology. And well, because I think the investment in technology is not cheap. And also, I think well, maybe I can share some experience in Hong Kong. In Hong Kong, we have this setup called Hong Kong Productivity Council, which is a development of research and technology application center, which can help SMEs to identify and apply latest technologies for improving their productivity and enhancement of product quality. So I think such kind of technology application center is really useful and helpful to the SMEs in Africa. So that's my observation.
Thank you, Daniel. Mtho, I want to bring in this point of government policies, and of course, the title of this panel is Institutional Imperfections, of which governments are key institutions. What have you seen from your experience in terms of government policies for SMEs that you thought were particularly successful, that could be adopted perhaps elsewhere on the continent? And what might be some of the things that need to be avoided?
Thank you, Tunde. I think what we have found to be very successful from government side as a good starting point is that obviously SME development has been a national development objective, punted properly with the right political will and its support coming out from the highest office in the land. So I think that the fact that the agenda of SMEs remain top priority for government, I think goes a very long way, because then it becomes a national position and it's in the national psyche that the development will come not through big business, but from the support and the development of SMEs. And that has really gone a long way in encouraging various professionals not to simply follow their old career path of looking for employment, but rather seeing themselves as creators of employment. So that almost political support at every given opportunity, I think goes a long way in solidifying the attitude amongst SMEs and entrepreneurs that SMEs do matter. What we have found that will still need a lot of development is that, unfortunately, you still have an economy that is regulated with big business in mind, because some of the rules that tend to stifle SMEs, apologies, that seem to stifle SMEs is not because they were written for bigger businesses. And so what we are saying that needs to be improved is that from a policy point of view, it will be important that we have almost differentiated and smarter regulation that unlocks the potential of SMEs, rather than hoping and wanting SMEs to fit into regulations that are largely written for bigger businesses. Over time, obviously, you need greater levels of political certainty and an understanding from governments that the solutions of the future would not all of them come out of government itself. We need to understand that nation building in the 21st century will require government to play more of a facilitation role and allow businesses to solve the problems of humanity, rather than having a dominance of the public sector in the economy and having SMEs only secondary players in the economy. Some of the network industries that Daniel was talking about, of rail and water and roads and connectivity, still largely are seen as responsibilities of government. However, we believe that if policy over time can allow SMEs to play in those bigger industries, we will create bigger markets and greater opportunity and tap into the abilities of SMEs. And we need policies and regulation that unlock those kinds of conversations, where government doesn't have to own a lot of things. They just have to be using their policy instrument to allow for SMEs to create the solutions and build the markets as they go. So that has been our experience. Thank you, Tunde.
Okay, Blen, since we're talking about government policies and intervention, we know we live in a global marketplace, and the weight of the large economies loom large in Africa and elsewhere. So what is your view of the role, particularly of government policies with regards to SMEs? And are there ways that we can support and grow the overall SME market in Africa?
Thank you for that question, Tunde. So yeah, I mean, as I mentioned earlier, overwhelming majority of businesses in Africa, something like 98% or so, are SMEs. So essentially what that means is, government coming up policies to really bolster local production or local knowledge. One policy that I've seen here, I'm currently sitting in Addis in Ethiopia. So one thing that I've seen government policies that are supporting SMEs is as it relates to taxes, import taxes or tariffs that are coming in from abroad. So as an SME, there are some pricing advantages that this local SMEs get when they are particularly, leveraging the local manpower and the local production, as opposed to, say, a pure trader bringing in a product from abroad. So I've seen some policy changes, but I have not seen on a macro level a support that's targeting on just on SMEs. As some of the fellow panelists have said here, there still needs to be a support that is targeting solely SMEs. They seem to be now just summed across the board that all SMEs need to be need to have access to financing. But besides that, there's several other policies that needs to be worked on by government level, and I have not particularly noticed a lot of that being undertaken, particularly at least in the Horn of Africa region. So there needs to be a lot more to be done, just besides the financing aspect of it.
Understood. Daniel, I'd still like to hear from you what you see as opportunities, particularly between Asia and Africa. Are there programs, policies, platforms available that would be relevant to SMEs? Are there new initiatives coming? What have you seen from your previous experience, and now both given COVID and the changes in the global economy? Where are those opportunities for cooperation and global work?
Thank you, Mr. Tunde. Well, nowadays, SMEs facing not only internal competition, but also international challenges. And also SMEs are constrained in their ability to penetrate into the distribution network of overseas markets, especially how to establish network with overseas buyers, importers, foster strategic partnership, etc. So I think the government and also other supporting organizations in Africa must render more assistance to the SMEs to help them to get the market access by connecting, analyzing, and releasing the most updated market information, providing them with professional consultation services, and also helping them resolve some difficulties encountered in the market expansion. To be more specific, I think for general trade and business sectors in Africa, SMEs can make use of other important trading hubs like Hong Kong and also Dubai to expand their international business. Now, due to the huge impact of the pandemic, I would encourage SMEs in Africa to consider using more reliable and internationally renowned online business promotion platform. Let's take, for example, the Hong Kong Trade Development Council has developed our online sourcing platform called HKTDC.com sourcing. And this online trading platform has demonstrated very good performance during the pandemic, which helps more efficiently connect global buyers and suppliers amid the COVID-19 pandemic. And also such electronic platform is purely a business-to-business matching network, which can help boost the platform traffic, increase the inquiries, enable SMEs to better connect buyers and suppliers, since online trading became all the important amid the pandemic-induced travel restrictions. So I think export promotion agency in Africa maybe should look at how to organize or how to take the lead in setting up such kind of cluster zones on similar electronic platform to promote our SMEs in Africa and also our special products in this region.
Thank you, Daniel. So we have about 3 minutes left to wrap up this session. A lot has been covered. So I want to give you each a 20-second opportunity to give one key message to the audience that you would like them to take away from this session and your experience. So I'm going to start with you, Shadi, 20 seconds.
Okay, 2 messages from my side. One for the entrepreneurs, which is go out there. There are lots of free resources available to support you. Don't wait for things to change. Create the change yourselves. And another message for governments and institutions, don't repeat what others have done. Take what's already been done in other places, build on it, improve on it. And there are a lot of great stories from the region now that you can build on. So that's my message. Good luck to everyone. Thanks, Tunde, for your moderation.
Thank you, Shadi. Mtho, you are next. Key message to take away from you.
Thank you very much. I think my key message to all entrepreneurs, especially those in the SME space, is that your network will determine your net worth. You know, that sounds as a cliche, but the SME and the journey of entrepreneurship can tend to be very lonely. And because SMEs don't have the advantage of having a large client base as the corporates, I think having a very strong network and developing your network and making sure that you are out there with the right network, with the right partners, clients, people, and you know, international partners will take your business to the next level. So absolutely prioritize your networks, make sure you build the right networks so that eventually you can go beyond the jurisdictions in which you operate currently.
Thank you, Mtho. Daniel.
Well, I think first of all, it is important to develop a very favorable business environment for the SMEs. And I think definitely international collaboration like the Belt and Road Initiative will help. And also, this is a win-win formula for not only the SMEs in Africa, but also other SMEs in the world. My second message is that the deployment of international platform, especially the electronic platform, during or after the pandemic is crucial for our SMEs to consider and also to take advantage. So that's my summary.
And Blen, we give you the last word for the panelists, please.
Sure, thank you, Tunde. The last word that I wanted to pass is We do have quite a lot of offering for SMEs. As I mentioned earlier, the very first mandate of us becoming a DFC is to support entrepreneurs such as yourself. We do have technical assistance fees. We do have financing that's geared towards only SMEs that are not even yet break even. So I would suggest that you guys look at our websites, www.dfc.gov, and see if there is any SME related support that could potentially be welcomed, as our agency is solely targeting SME development on the continent. Thank you.
Okay, so there you have it. Many thanks to the organizers and you, the audience and participants, and thanks to those who put in questions. We've had some significant insights and tour of the SME challenges today, including the need to identify them. And on that note, it is my pleasure to thank you for your participation today and for attending this session. Thank you and good day.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Tunde, and for the rest of the team, Daniel, Ahmed, Blen, and Shadi, and Mtho. One of the things that I noticed is that the whole team is quite passionate about SMEs. That was quite informative. And one of the things that came up is for SMEs, innovation is quite crucial, which goes hand in hand with also our theme for this year, which is innovation and sustainability as the drivers of economic growth. I would like to thank all our distinguished dignitaries and delegates who took out time to join this summit and share their common vision. I want to also thank the media officials and partners for their support in capturing the event. Once again, we would like to express our gratitude to the other stakeholders and especially our partners, Islamic Development Bank, IECSB, Islamic Corporation for the Development of the Private Sector, ICD, and ISDB Group Business Forum, TICA. Also silver sponsor, Ajman Free Zone, and e-commerce partner, Dubai. Your support is much acknowledged and appreciated. Unfortunately, this concludes the first digital edition of AIM Africa, supported by the Ministry of Economy of UAE under the theme Africa Unlocked Innovation and Sustainability as major factors of or drivers of economic growth. Again, we are truly grateful for your presence, for all our distinguished guests, our key speakers for today. And this could not have happened without any of you and your support. We would like to also extend our gratitude to everyone who attended this significant event, government officials, our friends and colleagues from the private sector, economists, business experts, as well as the honorable representatives from local and international organizations, and of course, our supporting partners, and also those who exhibited, the media professionals, for being with us throughout this event. Thank you so much for joining us during the entire day as we all came together to discuss the different issues in terms of innovation and sustainability as the drivers of economic growth. This event indeed symbolizes the continent's commitment to build a great foundation towards attaining sustainable growth, not just for today, but for future generations to come. We trust that everyone had a truly rewarding experience from the virtual exhibition and various conference sessions that served as a powerful platform to identify the risks, the challenges and opportunities in various sectors towards building a more resilient economy post-pandemic. We truly appreciate your participation and we look forward to your continued support on future editions. We hope to see you in the next edition of AIM Africa. And before I sign out, I would like you to mark this dates for the next AIM Latin America and Caribbean chapter, which will be held on the 7th and the 8th of September 2021. Let me repeat that again. Please mark on your calendar 7th and 8th September 2021. That is for the Latin America and the Caribbean chapter. Well, that's it from me and my team. We wish you a lovely day, a lovely evening from wherever you're watching from and whichever part of the world, whether it's a day, evening, or night, or even morning. We do wish you a lovely day and hope you have a safe and relaxing evening. Thank you.